Hi, my name is Natalie, and this is Natalie Lawyer Chick. I'll be discussing popular topics through a legal lens. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. Hey YouTube, it's Natalie. Hope you're doing well. So today let me just back up a little bit. Friday, February 12th, 2021 at 8 p.m., we had our 20,000 subscriber live stream. We got up to 300 concurrent viewers on that live stream, which is a record for this channel. Completely awesome. So happy that we were able to get that. Thank you all so much for tuning in and celebrating with me this amazing milestone here on this channel. I want to thank you all for your continued support. If you are new here, be sure to like the video. Go ahead and check out my other videos. If you like what you see, subscribe. Leave a comment. Let me know what your feedback is. And in case you don't know, my name is Natalie. I'm a criminal defense attorney. So today we are going to be reacting to state lawmaker arrested for DUI, wanted preferential treatment.
Car park? Is that already in park?
When an officer starts the field sobriety test, a lot of times the first test that he'll do or she'll do is called the horizontal gaze nystagmus test. And the horizontal gaze nystagmus test is to determine whether or not the person has what's called nystagmus, which is twitching in the eyes going like this, right? So almost everyone has nystagmus, twitching in the eyes, past about 90 degrees or so. And what the officer will do will bring their pen out to about 45 degrees and see whether or not nystagmus will be earlier in onset. So earlier onset nystagmus is sometimes indicative of intoxication. There are other things that can cause earlier onset nystagmus. One of those things is albinism. Everyone that's intoxicated by alcohol will have early onset nystagmus, but not everyone with early onset nystagmus is intoxicated by alcohol. So it is accurate in that it does indicate, it is one of the indicators of intoxication, but it's too broad because it doesn't indicate solely intoxication. It can indicate other things. And so they have to have other tests, but usually it's the first one that they'll do because it will indicate intoxication by alcohol. And also there's vertical nystagmus, which some believe that from taking CDS, drugs, controlled dangerous substances, some people's eyes will have nystagmus if they look up over a certain degree. So that's what he's doing with her right now. So when they're telling them to follow the pen, they don't want them to move their head. They want them to move their eyes. Up, and there it is. So I don't know if you guys could see it, but there's like so much detail right here in this very beginning part of the video. She does have early onset nystagmus. So that's just like an example of what nystagmus looks like. The eye is twitching. It twitched like that. You saw his hand right there. He just turned on his body camera, and that's why like the first like 30 seconds beforehand, it picked up the visual of what was going on, but we couldn't hear what was happening.
Make sure you're safe to drive, okay? You have any alcohol, you said? No. All right.
Puppy.
Jump on out. Is your dog okay to stay in the car? Yes. All right. She's going to drive your vehicle off the road first. We're going to park it over there, okay? So let's step on out, all right? No, just step on out. With the car park? Is that already in park? Yeah, it's a little dog.
It's a Yorkie.
Come on out, man. Monica, you haven't had any alcohol tonight? When was that time you had a drink?
Yesterday.
Have you taken any prescription medication tonight?
Other than ibuprofen.
Okay. I wish I could change my mind for you, but I can't, okay? Yeah, I'll have Suda guide it for you once you move it off the back.
Can I come get it?
No, you need to stay over here, okay?
She has very poor situational awareness. He has told her multiple times to stay where she is, and she keeps moving herself even though he's told her to stay where she is. I think that, in my opinion, that would put me in fear that I'm making this officer nervous and then potentially putting myself in danger. This is very poor behavior on her part.
All right, well, let's get this over with so that we can get through with it, okay? Do me a favor, place your feet just like they are. Keep your arms at your sides like this for me, okay? I'm going to show you a light this time. I want you to follow this light right here. Do you see it? Yeah. Eyes only, don't move your head, okay? Do you understand? All right.
So wait, this light?
Yep, this one right here.
So now you're about to see a properly conducted horizontal gaze nystagmus test. There are 6 clues that an officer looks to in a horizontal gaze nystagmus test. 3 of them altogether, but 1 for each eye. Lack of smooth pursuit, distinct and sustained nystagmus at maximum deviation, and onset of nystagmus prior to 45 degrees. This means for lack of smooth pursuit that your eyes cannot continuously follow the pen. For distinct and sustained nystagmus, that means that your eyes twitch for a sustained period of time when the pen is brought all the way out to the maximum angle, which is about 180 degrees. Then for onset of nystagmus prior to 45 degrees, that's looking for the early onset of twitching in the eyes. Here I have observed her have early onset of twitching in the eyes, lack of smooth pursuit, but not distinct and sustained nystagmus at maximum deviation. That means that so far I have seen her have 4 clues that would fail the horizontal gaze nystagmus test.
And don't move your head, just use your eyes.
He's moving it too fast.
Keep following it, okay?
Too fast. Pretty good. I don't see the twitching.
Don't move your head, okay? Okay, the light.
Up. A little bit right there. A little bit right there. There it is. And vertical, when they do vertical, they're trying to see if you're impaired by drugs. We have successfully won cases when they involve horizontal and vertical gaze nystagmus, but the research surrounding vertical gaze nystagmus being indicative of the use of CDS or drugs is not as strong as the research surrounding horizontal gaze nystagmus, and it's easier for a defense attorney to overcome that factor. It's just not well correlated to someone having ingested drugs previously. Let me see. She's trying to distract him with this whole I'm so cold thing. She's acting like it's like in the 30s or 40s with all the shivering and stuff that she's doing. It's a little distracting.
Okay, right there. So this next test is the walking test. If you want to take your boots off, you can.
This is called the walk and turn test. He's going to have her walk out 9 steps, do a special turn, walk back 9 steps. So for the walk and turn test, the clues for that are funny because they start before the test itself starts. So the first clue is if during the instruction phase the person can't keep their balance and they start too soon. The second set of clues comes from the walking phase. The third clue is the person stops while they're walking, they miss the heel to toe, they step off the line, they use their arm for balance, they make an improper turn, or they take the wrong number of steps.
You can take them off. If you want to leave them on, you can leave them on. It's entirely up to you. All right? What would you like to do?
Well, my boots are tight, so
Yeah.
I think I'm going to leave them on.
That's totally fine. I'm just giving you the option. Do you have any problems with your balance or walking or anything like that? Any medical?
No, other than the fact that I'm cold.
Okay. Well, there's no jacket in there, so I can't.
There is a jacket in there.
Well, They said that there's not, so I can't go search your car right now, okay? So let's just get through this and we'll get you a jacket.
I mean, she's not being rude and disrespectful, and I'll give her that, but she, like, the joviality is like, girl, do you not see how serious this is? Like, you're about to be arrested. Take this seriously. Pay attention to what's going on because this is important. So the reason he just told her those things, like, asked her those questions, like, are you sure that you don't have any medical issues? Is there anything wrong with you? Are you taking any medications? Because what this rules out is other reasons why a person may perform poorly on the walk and turn test. So a person could perform poorly because they have a sports injury and they have a torn ACL. You know, a person could perform poorly because they take a type of medication that gives them very poor balance, you know? So if later on, when the defense attorney tries to make an argument that these things were caused by something else, the court can ask or inquire, well, why didn't she say that at the time? But if she does say it at the time, then the court can say, well, she did say that at the time, and the defense counsel has brought me some information to prove this. So that is something going against the presumption that this poor field sobriety test was the result of alcohol intoxication.
All right. So no issues with your balance, no medical problems? Is that right? You just cold?
I'm just cold.
All right. So do me a favor. Put your left foot on an imaginary line in front of you. So what I want you to do is imagine that there's a solid straight line right here in front of you, just like that, okay? Now I want you to put your left foot on that line. Now put your right foot in front of your left foot with your heels and toes touching each other.
We also call this the heel to toe test. So not only are you walking in a straight line and then executing a very particular turn, you're walking with your toes, say this is your toes, touching your heel, right? And so then when you take the next step, you bring your foot around and then your toe touches your heel. Each time you take a step, you have to make contact with your heel and your toe. And so some officers will call this the heel to toe test. So even if you walk, you take the right 9 steps, you do the correct turn, but you're not able to coordinate by putting your heels to your toe, that can be an indicator of intoxication.
Arms out of your sides like this and stay in that position, okay? Don't move from there. Don't start to...
While he's showing her how to execute the test, saying, all right, hold this position right now, like put your heel to your toe and stay with your hands to your side and don't move, the test has actually already begun. He is observing her to see whether or not she's going to fall out of the stance. Her arms are going to come up for balance. She's going to sway if she trips, anything like that, while she's supposed to be holding the stance, preparing with the instructions. That's how technical the SFSTs are. The test starts before the test starts. That's why it's important for her to pay attention and stop trying to goof off.
To test you. When I tell you to begin, I want you to take 9 heel-to-toe steps along that imaginary line in front of you. 9 steps, heel-to-toe.
9 steps. Okay.
Once you get, hold on, don't start yet.
No.
Don't start yet. Once you get to your 9th step, I want you to keep your front foot on the ground and then take a series of small, short steps with your back foot.
Seriously, I know there's a jacket in my car.
Okay, your car's not there anymore?
I'm calling it. She's impaired. You got to pay attention, and your inability to pay attention makes me believe that you can't. And also, she was jiggling a little bit when she was standing there. I think she's impaired. I think she's trying to cover up.
The car's in the parking lot, and it's 67 degrees. It's not that cold. I understand that you're cold, but it's relatively not too bad, okay? Now, let me finish the instructions, okay? Once you get to your 9th step, keep your front foot on the ground, and then use your back foot to take a series of small, short steps and turn around. Okay? You got that part?
Yeah, so 9 steps
Yep.
and then back.
Yep. And then once you take that turn, hold on, don't start yet. Once you turn, you'll take another 9 heel-to-toe steps back along that same line, counting each step out loud, okay? I'm going to demonstrate it for you. It's going to look like this, okay?
Oh,
Your
good.
feet are going to be in this position just
Okay, good. Because this is what they're trained to do. They're trained to demonstrate, so that's good.
like this. You're going to take 9 heel-to-toe steps, counting each step out loud. 1, 2, 3, all the way to 9, okay? Once you get to your 9th step, you're going to keep your front foot on the ground, just like I'm doing, okay? You're going to take your back foot, and you're going to have to take a series of small, short steps like this, turning around, keeping that front foot on the ground, okay?
I swear that the turn is designed so that people mess up and they at least have one indicator of intoxication, because I've watched this step done over and over again, and I actually used to have officers show it to the jury so they can see how complex it is. And I know it doesn't matter how many times I watched it, thank God I've never been stopped for a DUI, but I am ever stopped for a DUI in the future, I just know I would fail that part, because it's not intuitive, and I'm not the most coordinated person.
Once you turn around, then you'll take another 9 steps over toe. 1, 2, 3, just like that.
Girl, pay attention.
All the way until
She's over here crying about her sweatshirt, and you're about to get arrested for DUI. This is a very complex test, even for a person who's not intoxicated. Pay attention. And again, people tend to act silly and inattentive when they're under the influence, especially of alcohol. And any judge will watch this and be like, I think she's a little, impaired. Or if she went in front of a jury, she's acting silly, and it doesn't fit the occasion.
it gets 9. Don't stop the test until you finish it, okay? Do you understand all the instructions?
So I'm supposed to start like this or like this?
Go ahead and keep your feet back in that position. So push your right foot in front of your left foot.
I already told you, girl.
All right, now, the first step you take.
Wobbly. Wobble to wobble to wobble wobble.
Wobbly wobble wobble.
Oh, okay. If you
So
understand.
she just started.
4, 5, 6,
Show her feet.
7, 8,
Okay.
9.
Show her feet. No, the turn is on. Up, wobble.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Okay.
It wasn't bad, okay? So that wasn't bad, but like it wasn't good. So as attorneys, we kind of get real technical. I want to see her heels to toes are touching. They were touching. She wobbled on the step coming back. Her turn was not good, but most people's turns are not good. I think her words are a little slurred as she's speaking, and she's a bit wobbly, but again, not bad. I've seen worse. I would say she's somewhat impaired. I would.
The next test is a standing test, okay? So stand like this with your feet together, okay? Arms out of your sides. Stay like that, okay? When I tell you to begin, you're going to raise a leg of your choice 6 inches off the ground, okay? That's about the size of a can of soda. Once you raise that leg of your choice, it doesn't matter which leg it is, you pick the leg. You're going to look down at the foot that you raise, and you're going to count out loud like this. 1001, 1002, 1003, until I tell you to stop, okay?
Now remember, it's until he tells her to stop. So a lot of the issues I have a lot of time with these DUI cases is that the officers would tell my client whenever I tell you to stop, and the client would be standing there great, legs sticking out, 6 inches off the ground, arms looking great, and then they have my client go into like 1020, 1030. Well, how long can most people hold their leg up, and then they like make them count and count and count until eventually they wobble or they put their foot down. But that's just because like literally, unless you're a yogi who can keep their foot up for 30 seconds, counting out like that in that uncomfortable position. It's different for people who are clearly intoxicated, because like after 1004, 1005, like that foot is going down. They're wobbling all over the place. Some of them can't even make it to 1001. But, it's like where they still arrest your client even after they've held it up for quite a long time. But it's the officer that determines when you stop. There's no standardized number. I don't like that. But, we'll see what happens here. As to the one leg stand, the officer looks for 4 clues. Number 1, swaying. Number 2, using their arms to balance. Number 3, hopping. And number 4, putting their foot down. It doesn't matter how soon they put their foot down.
Do you understand the instructions?
So I'm supposed to count 1001,
Hold on.
1002, 1003,
Until I tell you.
But you have to tell him that you understand and then start the test when he tells you to start. But she keeps starting the test prematurely. And starting the test prematurely is one of the signs of intoxication. See, there's so many things that can be a sign of intoxication, but she's not listening to instructions. And so even though she might be a bit more physically coordinated than the average bear, it doesn't mean that she's not somehow impaired because she's not able to follow instructions. We'll see.
Stop. Hold on. Don't start yet. I didn't say start yet.
Yeah.
Do you understand all the instructions?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any questions? I get it. I wish I could make things different for you, but I can't change the weather. Do you understand the instructions?
Listen, I'm supposed to count until you tell me to stop.
Correct, yes.
Get her feet in the shot.
Do you understand the test?
Yes.
All right, whenever you're ready.
Up. Ah. 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. No, you got to do 1015, 1016. She's losing a whole bunch of points, but she's really, honestly, guys, she's not that bad, right? But definitely, I don't want her driving on the road. But she's not that bad, to be honest. Maybe it's because I've seen ones that are just like so much worse.
You stop.
So she is, kind of tipped over a little bit. She had a false start, so she, put her foot out, caught her balance, and put her foot out again. I don't think that that's outside the realm of possibility for even a person that's not intoxicated to do that, but her little grin is just like killing me. But it's completely like a factor that the officer will note against you, that you had a false start, that you put your foot down immediately. They're going to count that against the person, and they're going to say that that's another indicator of intoxication.
It's really not that cold. It's almost 70 degrees. I understand that you haven't. I'm not fully clothed. I'm wearing short sleeves.
You got the DTs, girl?
But I understand I'm not wearing a dress, okay? Do you have, what level of education do you have? Sorry to ask you that. I know it's personal, but.
I have a high school diploma plus a real estate license.
Okay.
Plus I'm a state rep.
Oh, good. So you can count backwards, I'm assuming, and you know your alphabet?
So the counting backwards and alphabet test, I always point out, that's not one of the standardized field sobriety tests. A judge can determine if they want to consider it or not. But, a lot of the times they have shown that they allow officers to consider them in deciding whether or not to arrest somebody. But they don't come in at trial because according to the National Highway Transportation and Safety Administration, only the horizontal gaze nystagmus test, one leg stand, and walk and turn test are a part of the standardized field sobriety test and have any scientific indications of reliability.
Do you have, what level of education do you have? Sorry to ask you that. I know it's personal, but.
I have a high school diploma plus a real estate license.
Okay.
Plus I'm a state rep.
There it goes. Gotta tell them what you
can
do.
Count backwards, I'm assuming, and you know your alphabet? Okay. Can you count backwards from 47 to 32 for me, please, out loud?
All right, so counting backwards and doing the alphabet are not normally a part of the standardized field sobriety test. In my jurisdiction, I would object to that coming in at trial because it's not been proven to show anything that someone doesn't know how to count backwards or count forwards or whatever the case may be. That it's not scientifically proven to be an indicator of intoxication. However, can the officer consider that in determining whether or not he's going to arrest the person or proceed with an investigation into DUI? I think he can consider that, but it's just whether or not that comes in at trial. The thing that they're really looking for here is not if you're smart enough to know how to count backwards from 47 to 32. What they're trying to see here is whether or not you remember what the officer told you. Because if you are impaired, your memory, short-term memory especially, is lessened. And a lot of the times, people that are intoxicated and impaired don't have the ability to remember what the officer previously told her. So he told her to go from 47 to 32. Let's see if she's able to do that.
7,
She's drunk.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
She can't follow instructions for nothing. For nothing. She's intoxicated. girl, you drunk, because he said to stop at 32.
All right.
And you see how he didn't let on that she just got a check mark against herself, but he was like, all right, moving on.
And can you recite your alphabet starting with F, ending with R? F to R. Out loud, please.
F G H I J K L M N O P Q R S T U V W X Y Z.
He told
Do
you
you have anything in your mouth? Like gum?
anything in your mouth, he's preparing for the preliminary breath test. And again, this is why I tell my clients, especially if you have a DUI record, in my state, just refuse the fields. If you know that you're drunk, just refuse the fields. If you know that you're not drunk, go ahead and do them. Do the breath test, everything, if you know that you haven't consumed any alcohol. But, it can only get from bad to worse, because any little thing is an indicator of intoxication. And she's had quite a few. It's not like she did bad on each individual test. It's just that she did something wrong or messed up something in each individual test. So it's like she's getting for some places it's 5 clues, 6 clues, 7 clues, 8 clues. But she's racking up those clues of impairment.
Gum or tobacco or anything like that? Can I see? Thank you. So the tests that you just did, Monica, they're not pass or fail tests. They're just certain clues that I look for, okay, that measure impairment. Okay?
Yeah.
So what needs to happen now is I need to give you the opportunity to do a breath test, okay? Depending on the results of that breath test is how we go from here, okay? So I need to place you under arrest for DUI. So go ahead and turn around for me and put your hand back. Yes, turn around. Turn around. Turn around. Put your hand back. Turn around. Put your hand back.
Don't resist now. Don't get hurt now. Come on.
You have had alcohol. I can smell alcohol. And my test show. Okay. Well then, when you decided to take.
He said that you say you haven't had alcohol, but I smell alcohol.
The breath test or not, then that'll show that. Well, it's up to you. If you don't want to do the test, I can't force you to. There are penalties, but I'll just redo that when we get over there.
And once again, in my live stream, we did a DUI video and somebody was like, oh, you have to do the fields. No, you don't. You have to do he was saying you have to do the field sobriety test, which you don't have to do. He was wrong about that. But also you have to do the breath test. You don't have to do the breath test for criminal purposes. If you want to keep your license, you have to do it. But if you want to avoid jail time for a DUI, sometimes it does not behoove you to do it. They can't force you to do it. What they can force you to do is if you don't do it, you'll automatically lose your license. They can count the refusal to do fields as one of the factors against you, but they cannot physically force you to do a preliminary breath test. They can't physically force you to do it.
Yeah.
I literally did everything right.
You did everything right. They're not
I
passing.
did too.
Stop turning around on me, please. Thank you so much.
And once that, just like I said right before he said that, it's about the factors of impairment. How many, you could have done really, really well on the walk and turn test, but as you saw, she started the test too soon. She was wobbling while she was in the position. When she executed the turn, she did it incorrectly, even though I said, doing the turn incorrectly is a really, really common thing to do. That's just something that I shouldn't say that's just, but that's just what a defense attorney would point out. It doesn't mean that it's not something he can consider. It's actually what he should consider when he's about to place someone under arrest for being under the influence of alcohol. When she came back on the walk and turn test, she stumbled. When it came to the one leg stand, she had a false start. That's a 5th right there. She had some indications of nystagmus, even though it wasn't sustained onset of early nystagmus. It was early onset of nystagmus. That's 6 indicators right there. On the we had the one leg stand test. On the one leg stand test, she didn't do the 1,000. So she was doing 13, 14, 15. Instead of doing 1,013, 1,014. So she wasn't following instructions. She also started that test earlier, and he had to tell her not to start it earlier. She counted for way too long on the counting test. On the ABC test, she went too long on her ABCs, 10 indicators of impairment. I think that in most jurisdictions, an officer would arrest based on that, even though if you broke down each individual test, any defense attorney would say, oh, she actually didn't do that bad when you look at it overall, these 10 indicators of impairment. And funnily enough, even though she's not the most knocked down, drag out, drunk person I've ever seen, she probably has a good amount of alcohol in her system just based on those 10 indicators of impairment right there. But we'll see.
They're not pass or fail tests, they're just certain clues that are. observed and you exhibited a question. No, you are under arrest, Monica. And
She's asking for him to please take these off of me, being her handcuffs.
they're going to stay on. For DWI, I already told you once.
DWI?
Driving while intoxicated, yes.
No.
Yes.
Please. I have done everything you asked me to do.
I understand.
You did do everything he asked you to do, and when you did everything that he asked you to do, you showed indications of impairment, which is why when I have clients that could face a lot of consequences outside of just losing their license, I tell them, don't do the field sobriety test. You know what I'm saying? Don't do them, especially in my state where you are definitely allowed to refuse them. I tell them not to do them because you are going to, if you did have any alcohol, it's going to show up in the test. It just is, you know?
That you complied?
Perfectly.
No, you did not.
I did it to him.
Hey, I'm live still, so just FYI.
I know it's probably too early.
Oh, no, you can
Oh,
you can start it.
I'll get this started.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't like when police officers are talking to each other when they have their body cam on and then they warn each other that they have their body cam on, because it always makes me think, well, what do you say if your body cam is not on? Like, what would you have said on an active scene in front of a suspect who's under arrest that would make him want to warn you, hey, I'm still live right now? I don't like that.
No, you didn't, Monica. Otherwise, you wouldn't be arrested. You wouldn't be arrested if you did everything.
Batmobile. Did you see that? It's called the Batmobile. Very interesting.
Monica, I need to read you something that's important. So, I need to read you something that's important, okay? I'm going to read you the New Mexico Implied Consent Advisory.
I kept saying this was Arizona. It's New Mexico. Why did I think this was Arizona?
It's posted right here in blue. This is in English. That one's in Spanish. So
Once again, this is for the guy that kept saying that, oh, you have to do it. You have to do it. No, you don't. Listen to the advisory.
if you want to read the English one, it's right over here, so you can step over here. Listen to me, I'm about to read you something that's important. Right now, you are under arrest for DWI. The New Mexico Implied Consent Act requires you to submit to a breath test to determine the alcohol content of your blood. After you agree to take our test, you have the right to choose an additional independent test. If you choose to take this additional independent test, you have the right to a reasonable opportunity to arrange for a physician, licensed nurse, laboratory technician, or technologist who is employed by a hospital or physician of your own choice to perform an additional chemical test. The cost of this additional chemical test will be paid for by the law enforcement agency, which is the Albuquerque Police Department. Monica, do you agree to submit to a breath test?
No.
I cannot force you to take our test, but if you refuse, you will lose your New Mexico driver's license or non-resident operating privilege for a period of 1 year. If you are convicted in court, the penalties could be greater, and you will also lose your New Mexico driver's license or if you're convicted in court of driving while under the influence, you may also receive a greater sentence because you refuse to be tested.
Right? So they can enhance the sentence if she refused to be tested, but they cannot force her to take the test, nor will it give her any additional charges. They can just charge her with driving under the influence. They cannot, there's no crime for failing to perform the test. Her license is going to be suspended, which is a civil penalty through their, or an administrative penalty, I should say. But as far as being able to force her to take the test or charge her with a separate crime for not taking the test, that is not a thing, right? Implied consent implied consent only applies to the administrative procedure of keeping your license. They say it like that to you so that you get afraid that, oh, if I don't do this, I'm going to get another charge. No, they're going to charge you with DUI anyway. And you can only get the enhanced penalty if you're convicted of DUI. But if they don't, if all they have are those fields and they don't have a breath test, then it's very possible that she could get out of the conviction.
And you will lose your New Mexico driver's license or non-resident operating privilege for a period of 1 year. Do you understand those penalties?
Yes, I understand those penalties.
Okay. With those penalties in mind, do you agree to submit to a breath test?
No.
All right.
Because if they could force her to do it, they wouldn't ask for her permission. Once again, they don't ask for your permission on something that they can force you to do.
I can't force you to take the test, but if you change your mind, let me know, because this machine is timed. I'm going to start it up, and once it starts, then it's going to give you an opportunity to submit to the test. And if you don't want to do so, you don't have to do so, just like you told me. But if you do change your mind, that'll be your opportunity to do so.
I don't, you know, and again, I just think it comes from a civilian's misunderstanding of, you know, what you are compelled to do through criminal repercussions and what you're compelled to do through civil repercussions. Okay. So there is a civil repercussion of losing your license. But if you don't care about that and you want to try to avoid the criminal conviction of driving under the influence, then you don't take the test. Or if you think that you're not actually impaired and you know you didn't drink anything, then go ahead and take it, because it will make your life a lot easier and your license won't be suspended for a year.
Going down the seat where you were sitting at before? Thank you.
There's a timer on it because they have a limited amount of time by which they have to, there's a timer on it because there's a limited amount of time by which they have to give you the breath test, because the level of alcohol goes up and then the level of alcohol goes down in your breath over a certain period of time. I've always been on their side. I mean, if you've always been on their side, then you should just accept the fact that you're good at getting arrested for a DUI, you know? And they're just doing their job, right? So since you're always on their side, even when it's not something that you like, you should still be on their side. He didn't do anything bad to you. He didn't brutalize you. You may disagree with his assessment. You may be mad that you're in that situation, but...
So I cut out the part of her crying about how she's always supported the cops. So as a result of this, she was found guilty after a bench trial, which is a trial in front of a judge, and sentenced to a year of supervised probation and 1 day in jail, which she got credit for the 1 day of time served. Miss Youngblood is a state rep in New Mexico, and she was in a re-election year at the time that this happened. She refused to step down and lost re-election, and then she was investigated by the Attorney General's office. While she was on probation, she was charged with violation of probation because 2 of her urine samples, because she's not allowed to have any drugs or alcohol while she's on probation, 2 of her urine samples were diluted. They had a high amount of creatinine in them. And there's 2 reasons for that. Either you drink a lot of water, like for no reason, just because maybe you're on a diet or something, or you drink a lot of water because you're trying to dilute the sample to hide the fact that you're drinking alcohol. I think she was preparing for her wedding at this time. So her defense was that she was, you know, on an intermittent fasting diet and drinking large amounts of water. And as you guys see on this channel, I drink a whole lot of water. And of course, I've been on multiple diets, so I'm actually familiar with intermittent fasting. And that's a familiar defense that we use in our cases when our clients are alleged to have, you know, diluted their samples. As a punishment, the court found that she had to do increased urine testing and that they would be, you know, random. And he instructed her not to drink that much water or slam that much water before doing, the samples. And the thing is that it might seem a little bit harsh, but we have to remember that probation is a grace. So in lieu of probation, you're really supposed to be in jail. And so you're given probation to show that you deserve to be out on the street. So there's a lower standard that applies to, or a higher standard that applies to people that are on probation. And it's easier for them to go back to jail. So she's getting a taste of what it's like to really be tough on crime because, you know, the community doesn't want people that are out here on alcohol, high and drunk and stuff like that, driving around in their motor vehicles.
So it's not inherently illegal to drink a lot of water, but it can dilute a sample, and they have to be able to see whether or not you're drinking alcohol, even though you're on probation. So it looks like she's not drinking alcohol. You know, she was able to have negative tests before and after. I'm sure that she has learned her lesson, but I'm also sure she was intoxicated that night. I think there was reasonable doubt. I think factually she's guilty, but I bet you if she had gone in front of a jury, she would have had a better chance of being found not guilty. But I don't think there's a judge alive that would find her not guilty after she tried to use her position of power to get out of a driving under the influence arrest. Those are my thoughts on the situation. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.